Hello Beauty News family, welcome to this week's episode of the Makeup Breakup. This is a series where we destroy makeup for fun, basically, and sometimes to learn stuff about the product. We upload a new video every Wednesday, so don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button before we smash some makeup.
Alright, so today we're doing something a little bit different, hopefully fun. We're putting the Moon Mousse to the test. Now, a lot of you have requested this since Tati did a video testing this out. Now, we did know about this for quite some time, but it wasn't, like, they didn't ship internationally, so we couldn't actually order it ourselves. But we had an amazing person, Meredith. You are a gun. You are an absolute champion among champions. She sent us one of these so we can actually have a play. So what we're going to do today is test out this Moon Mousse, which is a repressing mousse. And we are going to test it versus just isopropyl alcohol, which is what we normally use. And we're going to see the results. Okay, so we just thought we'd show you what's in the pack. You get a bunch of instructions, you get some pressing tools, so a big, that's like a blush or a powder product. You get a little square one for like an eyeshadow. You can potentially use, guess this side if you wanted to, and that side as well for different size things. You get a little spatula, a little plastic spatula, and you get the Moon Mousse, which is the Magic Makeup Repair. It contains 50 mils of product and it lasts for 12 months. So essentially the steps are that you break up the big parts and make sure it's all put in the pan. You put some of the mousse onto the broken makeup, you mix it together with a spatula, smooth it out with a spatula. Then you're supposed to leave the mousse in the product overnight so it works its magic. Their words, not mine. And then you press it in the morning with the pressing tools. So that's what you do. It's not too much different to using alcohol. The difference is that this is mixed in the pan. You can still do that with isopropyl alcohol, but it's probably just a little bit more thorough to do it in a cup or something, and then you don't need to let it dry overnight before you press it because isopropyl alcohol dries really quickly. So that's the main differences, but there are also ingredient differences.
All right, so when we use isopropyl alcohol, like Kat said, it dries quickly and it doesn't contain anything. It doesn't change the formula. Now, Moon Mousse basically contains alcohol. In this case, it's witch hazel, so it's a natural grain alcohol. It also contains decyl glucoside. Now, this is actually a surfactant and it is used mostly in products aimed at people with sensitive skin. Baby shampoo is a good one that comes to mind. Then it's got a bunch of oils in it. Lavender oil, jojoba oil, coconut oil, and vitamin E. Now, vitamin E is a great ingredient. We all need it for our skin. Lavender oil can be an irritant for people. So if you know that you're sensitive to lavender oil, please be careful. Jojoba oil, pretty good for the skin. Coconut oil, some people love it, some people not so much. So these are things to take into consideration if you are using this product. Something I want to mention that's already problematic about this set is the fact that it doesn't actually have an eyeshadow pressing tool. You guys can see it is way too small or way too big. It would
way
only,
too square.
Yeah, way too square. All right, so we're going to destroy and repress our makeup the way we usually do it. So we just use a little makeup spatula. Some people also call it a dental spatula. Next step, we take our smooshed up eyeshadow. We take our isopropyl alcohol. I use a tiny little like dropper thing, pipette, that I purchased like a huge bag of them off eBay. It cost me like $2, free shipping. Fill the pipette up with isopropyl alcohol and just add like a tiny bit, teeny tiny bit, and mix. Okay, so the consistency that you're looking for is kind of like wet sand. You don't want it to be like liquidy or anything like that. When you sort of smoosh it together, it looks like it's kind of pressing. And then you simply pop it back in.
You can also do this in the pan, but it just gets really messy.
We're just comparing our way to Moon Mousse way. But no way is necessarily wrong or particularly right. It's just whichever way you like to do it. Just want to make sure like the product is pushed up to the edges, because this will also like help it to stay in the pan. You'll know when a matte shade is ready because it'll start to all like come together, kind of like a ball of dough. All right, there we go. So it's all sort of come together.
I also want to point out that often when people do press makeup for the first time, they put way too much alcohol in it.
Yeah.
And they struggle with either pressing it, with it cracking or going a bit funny once it dries, and it's because people put way too much alcohol in it. So you do need to be very careful with that.
Mattes, I personally feel, never press quite as nicely as metallics. Unfortunately, they always... Oh, and look at how perfectly that pressed. Okay, well that one is like textbook matte repressing. Gorgeous.
You're welcome.
Yeah. What I was gonna say was they don't always press quite as nicely, and this can be related to too much isopropyl alcohol or simply the formula of the eyeshadow. Step 1 is to gather any of your broken makeup, and it says to use a spatula to loosely pack the recovered makeup inside of the container, and if there are any chunks, to break them up more finely to allow the mousse to distribute evenly. Try and keep it in the pan.
It says to gather your chunks, Hayley.
Come on, Chunky. It's time to come home. Dinner's ready.
Now I'm gonna get a pet and call it Chunky.
Use the other side of the spatula to press it down like it said to. Now we break up the matte one. Okay, this one's a little bit firmer. I will say that our little spatula is much more user-friendly.
Because it's got a pokey end. You stick it with a pokey end.
Yeah, I know. Next step is to take the Moon Mousse, give it a good shake, shaky shake, and to dispense it over the top of the pans. It says the amount that you use is going to vary depending on the size of the pan and the product and all that jazz. But it basically says if you don't add enough now, you can add more later, and if you add too much, it'll just take a little longer to dry out.
It's dissolving.
It's dissolving.
Magic.
It is kind of magic. It's pretty cool. I don't know how much to use. 1 pump? 20 pumps? 86 pumps? Out you go. Woo! Ah! Help! Alright, so it doesn't do that magic thing on mattes, which I don't know what to do. Moon Mousse! Help! Send help! The instructions say once the mousse dissolves, grab your spatula and test the mixture to see if you've dispensed the right amount of mousse onto your makeup. If your makeup / powder is malleable, you're ready for the next step. But if the mixture is too dry and sticking to the spatula, you'll need to add another dab or two of the mousse and then try it again.
But in theory, isn't it saying that that's not wet enough?
In theory, it's saying that's not wet enough, but my instinct says run away. Apparently, it's not wet enough. If you say so, Moon Mousse.
We're just following your instructions.
This feels wrong. I think we've added way too much to that. Look at it on this side.
It's ridiculous.
It's literally, it's like a pool of liquid. Oh no.
Maybe that's a clump they're talking about. it's not sticking to the
Hey!
thing. I think we got it. I think we got it.
Surely not.
Yeah.
Surely they don't.
Yeah, I think we got it. Following the instructions.
It's kind of. I mean,
But that's
it's
just pigment. Unless they want it really flooded with oil.
I don't know. God, how long is this one gonna take?
The instructions are definitely unclear.
Yeah.
I think what it means is if it's like lifting like that one is,
Yeah,
because the
because if
bottom
you-
is still dry.
Yeah, so if you look here, like when you can sort of like move it away from the pan. So prob's not enough. It's hard to sort of tell, am I getting this right? And it's also extremely difficult to get this stuff all around the edges. The matte one, like you could see it's sticking, but it's still lifting in the pan and it's very wet on top, but also still dry underneath.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's what you don't want.
So that's obviously what you don't want, which is valid.
Yeah, don't dispute that. I don't want that either.
I don't know. No one wants that. I feel like
We got it.
I feel like we potentially got it with this one. And not only did we get like the perfect amount, but we also got to demonstrate how it absolutely should not look if you haven't added enough product. So there we go. Success.
I definitely think our third try, this guy here,
Was the best.
Was the best.
Yeah. This, too much. Too much, quite good. And
But I think it
finally-
really depends on the formula of the.
I would
shadow
agree
anyway.
with you that
Oh, look, dry patches.
See, this is the problem. This particular matte shade, it's really wet and like clayish on top, but it's completely dry and broken up underneath.
Yeah, I think it's a really dense matte, so it doesn't penetrate.
No, which is problematic.
I say we just leave it.
Yeah, we're going to leave it. However, we're going to do one more thing before we set this palette aside. We are going to take a shimmer and a matte. We're going to break them up, mix them in a bowl with Moon Mousse, and then we're going to press them our way. Well, that's too much.
But we put heaps more in the pan.
I
so-
know.
God, it smells bad.
The perfect amount. Yeah, it smells, if you've ever smelt witch hazel, it has that distinct stinkiness. But it also has a little bit of a florally scent to it. Oh, this is...
Like a herbal scent.
Yeah. All right, so this is a bit, I don't know. It's
I
kind
feel
of
like we've
strange.
lost all the product.
Where did it go?
I think that is less messy.
It's definitely less messy, and we know for sure we don't have any of those weird dry bits at the bottom of the pan.
They got the same result as the pan next to it, just like with more certainty.
We're going to press these ones how we would. So kind of using our traditional method of destroying and repressing, just with Moon Mousse.
Man, that presses really well. I don't know why they don't recommend that you press it while it's wet.
So comparing our isopropyl alcohol typical repressing method next to the Moon Mousse mixing in a bowl and pressing while wet method, they look pretty spot on the same straight off the bat. But what we're going to do is let this dry overnight. Basically they say to leave the product open, go to bed, and then the next day to press these items with your pressing tool. The beauty of using isopropyl alcohol is once these are pressed, that's the end. You simply wait for it to dry, maybe 24 hours. If it's a really big product, you might wait, 48 hours. But that's it. The job is done. It just needs to dry now. Whereas with the Moon Mousse, we have to come back and press these at a later date. And just to let you guys know, with the pressing of 6 shades, we've used about that much of the bottle.
So maybe about a quarter.
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right, it's the next day and we're back to press these. And I thought they were going to look a bit better, but they look just as disgusting as they did last night. So I'm just going to, they feel like they're not completely dry. There's a little bit of moisture in them, but I think this colour has changed, so it looks like it's still wet, but it tells us to repress them, and it's been quite some time. So I'm just going to use the pan that we used to press these guys. It looks alright, not too bad. That one's not looking the best because it was really uneven in the pan. It's almost too dry to even do anything about it unless you want to repress it again. Alright, you can see that one was still wet because chunks were coming up, so it hadn't completely dried yet. We did flood that one a bit, I recall, so don't put that much product in. And the one that actually looked like we got the right amount of Moon Mousse in there, let's do that one. Once again, it was being picked up on the pressing tool, so clearly it wasn't completely dry. Yeah, you can see fingerprints in there when I touch it. I also want to point out that I've just had a smell of these, which sounds really strange, but alcohol, when you press them, it smells strongly of alcohol until it completely dries, and the smell goes away entirely. Now these no longer smell like alcohol, but all of these do have a perfume to them. So they smell floral, which will irritate some people and some people might like it. But these definitely have been altered in the formula compared to, at least in the scent, compared to the alcohol. Now I'm going to swatch them and see how they perform and see if there's any difference between the isopropyl alcohol pressed ones and the Moon Mousse pressed ones. I do have to say that just as a result of what we did and trying the different methods, actually taking the product out of the pan, mixing it with the Moon Mousse, a small amount, and then pressing it into the pan with a paper towel, it looks a lot more stable and it works a lot better than the directions that Moon Mousse give you. It's just messy, it's hard to determine how much product you need, and look, like even that one, it just looks messed up. So I would actually disregard their instructions, and I think this is a neater and a more controlled way of pressing your makeup with Moon Mousse. So the alcohol ones have completely set. That one's a little bit soft, but that's probably just the metallic formula. And we'll see how it swatches. Fine. This one still looks really usable, but it might have been pressed a little bit too firm, so you don't pick up as much product. Ugh, these are a lot more wet. It's a bit gross. And this feels like it's almost sealed. Look, it's got a layer on top. The oils have actually sealed it shut. So that's actually almost an unusable product now. I do not recommend this with mattes or eyeshadows that are likely to seal over. The oils really do make that happen. It's not nice. So let's swatch them. So that's metallic, still great, but the formula of those metallics are really easy to repress, and that is woeful. I think they've also done something with the formula because these two actually stain my fingers, the pink and the orange stain. So that's orange from that and the pink from that, so something weird's going on. Alright, now for these guys and that one there. So once again, these are wet, so they're chunky. This one is also wet, so it's chunky. So these haven't set yet, and I don't know if it's actually wet from you've put a lot of oil in here, so it's now never going to set dry, or if it just needs to take longer to dry. But these are definitely wet. They look cool, but they're essentially foiled eyeshadows at the moment. I do also want to point out that we left these for a good 12 hours, whereas I think the recommendation is to leave it for 4 to 8 hours. So we've given this ample time to dry, and this could just be that the oil has messed with the formula. All right, now for the ones that we didn't put much Moon Mousse in because we pressed them in a bowl rather than in the pan. This one I'm going to see if it actually seals because it's a matte. It picks up all right. It looks like it is, it's a lot better than this. So I reckon you need to really be careful with the amount of Moon Mousse you put in a matte eyeshadow, because if you put too much it seals it and it's disgusting. This one is quite firm and it looks like it almost wants to seal. It kind of gets a layer on top, but you can still pick up product. So let's have a look. There we go, and there we go. So yeah, hopefully you can see that repressing does work to some degree. The alcohol one is, it's been done for years and years and years for a reason. It doesn't mess with the formula, it doesn't add any scent. It will for the first maybe 24 hours, but then that will completely dissipate and it will just go back to normal. The only issues you will have with repressing is sometimes the pans will crack if you haven't pressed them firm enough, and the alcohol can slightly dry out the formula, but it still generally applies the same. The Moon Mousse, these do feel a little bit kind of almost denser, so you can see that the oils have added in some more binding agents to it, but that can cause problems like with matte shades. It can also cause problems if they just don't dry. So Moon Mousse definitely does work in some instances. I think disregarding the instructions is definitely the best way to go because these are the neatest and have the least amount of Moon Mousse in them. When you flood your pans with oils, it's not a good time. It adds heaps of fragrance, seals the pan. These may be dry, they just might be now oily eyeshadows. We don't know. It's not the greatest. Alright, so if you've been wanting to try the Moon Mousse to repair makeup, look, it definitely works. I do think you need to tweak the method compared to what like the instructions say, but it definitely will repress a product. You just have to be careful if you want to add oils to your product, and that will vary from product to product and also your sensitivities. So if you don't want to use this and you want to go more cheap option,
there is definitely isopropyl alcohol, but if for some reason you don't like that, this is a nice little handy bottle. It's pretty, it's cute, nice little handy pump. So yeah, not a bad little product. So thank you again to Meredith for sending this over. You are an absolute champion. We had a ball with this one. It was really interesting to test out, and I'm sure a lot of people found this helpful or at least interesting. So thank you again. So if you like these videos, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and check back next week for another one. So we'll see you there. Bye.